In episode 5, the exterminator shows up and takes out all of the traps and compliments Jen on her freezer, and Jen says, you know what, take it, you can have it. Because both Jen and Judy feel way better having that freezer just out of the house. They then go food shopping, where Judy makes mention that ever since sending that rock back, she feels like there's a lot of positive energy. And maybe Jen should have sent a rock back too, because when they get to the checkout line, all of her cards have been declined. And she makes a scene, but it doesn't change the fact that she's broke. And when she gets home, she looks at the bills and realizes just how broke she actually is. I mean, she's drowning in debt. And because of the financial burden, the stress is just getting to Jen, and she asks Judy very nicely to give her some space at this time. So Judy heads to the art gallery, but she finds out that it's been cleared out and they're going to put an Arby's in there. She then meets up with Ben for lunch and asks, hey, do you know where my paintings are? Because I really want to sell them, but he has no idea. He does tell her, however, that she is right. Steve is probably in Mexico, because the FBI has record of him crossing the border at one point, and they're actually after a really bigger fish. So if they find Steve, they can probably cut a plea deal with the FBI. And while Ben thinks that's great, Judy, on the other hand, who actually knows what happened to Steve, is stressed out about learning this information. Ben starts pressuring Judy about, if you know where he is, just tell me, and the pressure gets to Judy, who cracks and says, all I know is he was really stressed, he bought a condo and backed out at the last second and actually really screwed Jen over. And Ben says, wait, you're Jen? As in Jen saw him a few days ago? But Judy tries to walk back the comments. She then heads to the bathroom and just starts beating herself up over letting this info slip. And as she's doing so, Michelle walks in because Judy didn't lock the door. And Judy says, yeah, I'm just having a day. And Michelle is also having a day, so they decide to go out drinking afterwards. Jen, meanwhile, is trying to figure out how to scale back and save her finances and asks Lorna, hey, how much do you think I can get for my house? But she finds out that Lorna's name is actually on the house. And Lorna is unwilling to let Jen sell it because that's the only house that the boys have known, and they have a lot of memories of their dad in that house. Lorna goes on to say that you don't have a financial problem, you have a personality problem. Because your personality is off-putting and it hurts your sales. She brings up an example of a couple who was going to back out of a house because of a mold issue until Lorna had to step in and, quote, show them a little love, to which Jen wasn't willing to do. And the criticism by Jen from her ex-mother-in-law annoys her, but she still has to figure out how exactly she's going to scale back. So she calls up ADT to figure out if they can lower the rate, but they can't because she signed a contract. And she's interrupted by Ben, who just stops in and says, hey, I just had lunch with Judy, and she mentioned that you were going to sell Steve a condo, but he backed out and screwed you over. Jen downplays it by saying, look, deals fall through all the time, there's no hard feelings, but I definitely wasn't the last person to see him. I mean, he has all these associates. Also, do you do short-term leases? Because right now I'm living with my mother and she's driving me nuts. So Jen goes to bend over and grab the folder of short-term leases, but her back is really jacked up. And since Ben is a chiropractor, he asks if she needs some help with it, but she says, no, I'm fine, it's nothing. But she ends up throwing her back out and needs help getting home, and Ben drives her home and sets her up, all the while saying, if you need an adjustment, I'll give you one, but she's saying, no, I'm fine. Then there's a knock at the door, and it's Karen with more of that orange wine. Immediately, she thinks she knows Ben and recognizes him, but Ben's never met her. She then asks Jen if she wants to have some orange wine with her because her husband is once again out of town, but Jen says, this isn't a really good time. I threw my back out, and that's my chiropractor. But after Jen told Karen that her and Steve fighting was actually really raucous sex, Karen isn't buying the fact that he's her chiropractor. She thinks that the two are having sex. And that's when she says, wait, I do know you. I saw you on my security camera footage. You were here the other night. And Jen stares Karen down and says, no, you didn't. Shut up. You're drunk. You don't know what you're talking about. It gets pretty awkward where Ben just goes, I'm going to go out and get some ice for your back. And Karen starts apologizing, saying how she's just so lonely that her husband's constantly out of town. And she apologizes for misinterpreting the situation. But that interaction definitely piqued Ben's curiosity. And when he gets back, Karen is gone, but he gives Jen the ice and says, what was that all about? She thought that she knew me? And she says, no, it was somebody else. And he awkwardly kind of tries to flirt with her, but it just doesn't go that great. But Jen's back is really messed up, and she finally accepts the offer of an adjustment. But as Ben is giving her the adjustment, she's getting freaked out looking at the face of a man that she killed the previous night because Ben and Steve are twins. And while the adjustment helps, she starts crying her eyes out because of it. She apologized to Ben later, and he reveals to her that he had 7 heart surgeries, and she reveals to him that the back pain probably came from her career of dancing, to which, surprisingly, he was also a dancer for a while. And he starts dancing, but not good. He then notices, though, Jen's sign to get a stop sign at that intersection that Charlie almost got hit at, and she says, yeah, I've become one of those mothers that I absolutely can't stand. And he says, what, a mother who cares? He goes on to explain that his own mother won't even leave the house because she's so worried that if she does, that Steve will pop up and she won't be there. He also explains that he hasn't talked to Steve in over a year because of his drinking issue. And by he, I mean Ben's drinking issue. He thought eventually they would make amends, and he's regretting the fact that he might never be able to. But then she gets a phone call from Charlie, who found Steve's car and has been gallivanting all through Laguna with his girlfriend Parker. Charlie thought that his mother was hiding it for his birthday present when in fact she wasn't, and after almost getting caught by the cops making out with Parker in a parking lot, he has now run out of gas and needs a pickup. So Jen calls Judy, who went out to eat with Melissa at the restaurant that Melissa cooks at, and it's worth mentioning that Judy is not picking up on the flirtatious vibes that Michelle is giving off. But when she gets the phone call, Judy immediately leaves to meet Jen at the location of the car. As soon as Jen gets there, she lights into Charlie, saying that that's not your car, you shouldn't have taken it, it's not your birthday present, Judy will take you and Parker home. But instead of filling up the car with gas, she douses the gasoline all over the car and lights it on fire. Thanks so much for checking out this recap. If you don't see the next video there, don't worry, it'll be up in a day or two or as quickly as I can get to it. Please consider subscribing to this channel. It would really help me out. And then like the video if you liked it and hit thumbs down if you don't.